perhaps another sign the housing market is recovering. Radar Logic reporting today that its composite home price index for 25 metropolitan areas rose 1% in August, the fifth straight monthly increase. Prices were down almost 10% year over year, but by the smallest amount since January of 2008. Joining us now with more on the report is Mike Fetter, the president and CEO of Radar Logic. Michael, many thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Laurie.
First, talk about the study that you do and why you think it's important to do this study to break down the metropolitan cities as opposed to a national report.
Well, we do individual cities because what we focus on is the actual value of housing at the point of sale. We take closing transactions between buyers and sellers, and we translate the information implied by those prices into a unit value, price per square foot. Real estate, houses in particular, are very neighborhood sensitive, very geographically sensitive. So people don't necessarily move from New York to California because housing is better. They move for different reasons. New York housing prices and California housing prices aren't all that correlated. We do put together a national metric. It's really a composite of the top 25 cities, which represent 70-odd% of the value throughout the country. But that's really as a general tone reader, and feel very strongly that if you're going to look at point of sale, spot values, you have to do it locally.
Do you think that this is a better service, a different service versus the national metrics? Because a lot of the data, most of it comes from the national front.
Well, I won't say that it's better. It's certainly different. And one of the things that we've stressed since we started doing this work is that these are all important pieces of data when examining the housing market, which is a tremendously important asset class and marketplace for the United States economy.
Certainly.
But no one had, prior to our efforts, really looked at a spot market equivalent. So if you look at NAR's pending home sales, if you look at the Mortgage Bankers Association purchase money indices, if you look at the National Home Association of Home Builders sentiment reports, these are all components of the housing market, but then so is the RPX, which is really the spot value occurring at point of sale.
So let's talk about your findings. Home prices, home sales, sales volume significantly larger than the average increase for the same period over the last 10 years. How do you account for the big spike?
Well, I think there have been several major forces that have helped bring this marketplace into a point of stability, if not actual recovery, and I think it's a little soon to tell whether we're simply stable or on the rebound. We would tend to lean more towards the rebound. But first of all, in the major centers, prices have come down 30 to 50%. People, I think, forget the impact of that dramatic a reduction in, if you will, asset price. Secondly, the federal government's increase in conforming loan limits has made conforming mortgages available to a much greater percentage of home buyers in the country. And then I think third, there is some change in sentiment both among buyers and sellers that these prices represent reasonable value, and that's bringing the momentum back in.
With the falling prices, is any of that due to foreclosures you're finding, and that could just be another headwind to the housing market?
Well, certainly if we look back to the housing bust, as we call it, it was fueled by a number of factors, one of which was clearly the foreclosures that put tremendous inventory on the marketplace. Typical month supply of housing inventory is 7.5 to 8 months. It ballooned out to 12 months as a result of foreclosures. But at the same time, there were tremendous reductions in buyers at the same time. So you had both increase in supply, decrease in demand. I think the other thing that really led to the dramatic reduction was that a lot of people were frankly buying houses speculatively. People were investing in homes with relatively inexpensive, easy to get borrowed money on the assumption that home prices would only go up. And then when that market stopped, just like any other asset bubble, down they came, along came the foreclosures, and it corrected.
What do you want to see either in the macroeconomic picture or perhaps some sort of government program, with the example being the $8,000 first-time home buyers credit possibly being extended, which the House is, from what I understand, considering to keep the trend that you're seeing, these improving trends going?
Well, I think there are a lot of things that need to happen. The first thing that I think the marketplace really needs is a better pipeline of mortgages for those people who can qualify for them. A house is a major purchase, and most people can't just pay cash. Anecdotally, we understand that increasingly people are having to put up larger and larger down payments, and that constrains some demand. So anything that the federal government can do to help keep that supply of credit running, I think, is a good thing. As to foreclosures, I wish I knew the answer, but some program to help keep homeowners in trouble in their homes while they try to work through the economy or work out of the difficulties, as opposed to simply foreclosing and throwing them out, has to be a good thing.
Yeah, housing market is definitely a challenge to this economy, and we'll continue to check in with you periodically for your reports, findings, Radar Logic's findings as to where we're headed. Mike, thanks so much.
Thank you, Lori.